We're in the studio this morning, Terry, with folks from Waitress, who we had a chance to go see last night. Great show.
Great show, and I'm going to start by saying Waitress is one of my top 10 movies of all time.
Oh, good.
I love that movie, loved Adrian Shelley, and that whole cast was just amazing. And I will say, you did it justice. You were both amazing. Desi, your voice is phenomenal.
Thank
as
you.
Jenna.
Thank
and
you.
then Dr. Palmater, we have here, Brian Fenkart. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for getting up. You guys probably just got to bed about an hour
Right.
ago.
I know. I'm not sure I'm awake yet. Really, I might be dreaming this.
Well, we had a chance to catch the show, as we were mentioning, and I tell you, there's a lot of song in this particular musical, which is good, of course, but there's a lot of original stuff. Folks are going to come and go, well, I don't recognize that. But
Right.
boy, that is really beautiful.
Right. Yeah, Sarah Bareilles wrote the music and lyrics, and she has just such a relatable sound. So, and kind of a sound that you go, oh, that's Sarah Bareilles. Like, it sort of just sounds like her.
Yeah,
And
it's distinctive.
yeah, and so it is funny. You'll listen to these songs having never heard them, but you'll walk away singing them immediately. So it somehow is familiar because it's her.
And I love that the band's on stage. I love how they do all the transitions with the different. That must be really cool to perform that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it makes it feel like more like they're part of the show instead of just supporting our show, like having a band on stage, which I feel like a lot more pop and rock artists who are writing musicals nowadays, they like to have the band on stage because that's what they're used to.
Exactly.
So we're finding that a lot of these new pop artists coming up and writing musicals like to have the band on stage.
And our 6 band members travel with us,
Yeah.
so they're always the same.
Oh, wow.
They are part of
That's
our
great.
cast, part of our crew. They are telling this story with us.
Oh, that's great. All right, well, let's find out where you guys are from. Desi?
I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas.
A Midwest girl.
That's right.
Hey, all right. So how many times have you traveled through Omaha?
I've actually never traveled through Omaha. I've traveled through Lincoln. I've traveled through I've definitely been through Nebraska handfuls of times, but never Omaha.
Isn't that amazing?
It's exciting to be here.
Welcome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I have some friends and family coming up. It's
Oh,
a quick
great.
drive. Yeah, from Kansas.
That's
Yep.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Brian?
Oh, I'm from the Garden State of New Jersey.
Hey, all right. A
Yes.
Jersey guy.
Yes, indeed.
Does that mean you've done
kid.
Jersey Boys?
I have not yet.
What?
No, not yet.
Does the accent come out at any time?
Yes, talking to family. It certainly does. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, usually on the phone with family.
That's what happens to me being from Maine.
Yeah.
I drop
Yeah.
every R.
Yeah.
That's
Of
it.
course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maine idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
So, how long have you two been playing these roles and touring together?
So we opened on October 20th. So it's been almost 2 months now.
Wow, you've got great chemistry. And I mean, it's just effortless. Just like in the movie, I think you capture their essence so well in that chemistry they have immediately when they first meet, which is
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, 2 months. It sort of feels like yesterday that we began, and it sort of feels like years ago that we began. It's
Yeah.
when you're playing real people, real characters, it's easy to just sort of find them and adapt to each other as real people. So, thank you. That's been a fun and rewarding thing about this process
Yeah.
for me, hugely.
Absolutely. I mean, we're 60-something shows in now, I think.
Yeah.
We're
Wow.
on city number 7.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It flies by.
It really does, yeah.
Let's take everybody back here to when you got the call that you guys are going to be in Waitress. Where were you?
Ooh, I was just thinking about that the other day. Actually, I was doing a contract with Wicked, the Broadway company of Wicked,
Love it.
and I was in a rehearsal, and I stepped outside, and my agent, I was expecting the call, and I was expecting a call, actually, not necally the call.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So
Very different. A call.
very different. It was actually a call, and he called on a break, and I was at work. And also not only at work, but doing another show. So I had to kind of walk back into rehearsal, keeping it to myself. And I immediately on a break called my mother, who was ecstatic. I mean, truly more excited than I was in the moment, because I think for me it was more like a relief or after the process hearing that news. But I'll never forget having to walk back in and be very calm, cool, collected after knowing that this was going to be in my future. So it was an exciting day, that's for sure.
Is your mom still in Wichita?
Yeah, no, she's actually now outside of Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
And they'll be coming up. And yeah, she was doing backflips. I mean, truly was like, and still is doing backflips. She saw the show. We played Kansas City, and she came to almost every show, and will be coming to Omaha on Thursday.
That's
so,
exciting.
Yeah. So Brian, where were you?
I had just done the audition. It was, I think, a Friday, and I don't know how much you know about the New York City transit system, but it works when it wants to.
Yes.
So my commute home was a little longer than it normally would have been, and by the time I got topside from underground, I had a message on my phone saying to call my agent, and so I did, and right then on my walk home, I found out that I got the job. So that was one of the fastest it's happened, I think, where I hadn't even gotten home yet from the audition, which is that felt nice.
Well, it feels natural with you two.
Yes,
like
really
these are the roles you guys were born to play.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
You really got it. You got just everything, the speech patterns, everything, just perfect.
Well, and I'm such a fan of Nathan Fillion.
Yeah,
I've been for so many years that I to even have comparisons drawn throughout this tour has been pretty flattering. So I mean, he's such a brilliant comedic actor.
Let me ask you about this. How do you keep your weight down? Do you have to eat on stage? I mean, I know you do, Brian, in a few scenes. The delicious pies that Jenna bakes. Are a lot of those real pies that you're moving around?
Yeah. Yes, a lot of them are. So when you see an ensemble member or a principal actually take a bite of pie, it really is pie. My character is constantly making pies. So some of these ingredients are real. Some of them are actual food that looks like that ingredient to make it safe. There's no actual real egg,
right?
But there is real dough, real flour, real sugar, real salt. So there's all that stuff gets caught in my hands. And I have a scene where I'm making a pie with real flour, and then my character touches Dr. Palmer's sweater, and there's definitely proof of that after the fact. So he normally walks away with lots of fingerprints of flour. Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about the music and all that stuff, and there's not a lot of dance in this one as we've seen before. But what is your training when it comes to this stuff? Your singing, your dancing background?
Yes, tons. I have a BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree from the University of Michigan in musical theater. So yeah, actually the movement in this is so unique. Lauren Lataro, our choreographer, it made it very pedestrian-like. The ensemble, we call them the ninjas. They're often floating in and out of these scenes, helping me with my pies, and suddenly a bowl of sugar will appear, or suddenly, and that does take a background in movement, and whether or not it's this traditional musical theater dance, there's not necessarily a big tap break, but there is this kind of subtle movement that really does take skill. And so I think that I really love that aspect of this show. I don't know, even my character moves in ways that it's a pedestrian-like style, but it definitely exists. I think it's
more modern dance
for sure.
Yeah, it's like very little of the show is danced, but very much of it is choreographed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
a lot of it is very, very particular on things have to happen on certain counts, and so it's while it's not dancey, it is very carefully thought out and choreographed.
So I got to ask about the scene that is maybe the funniest thing I've ever seen when it comes to a musical. Is in the diner, and you have the two characters who are nerds, for lack of a better
John
term.
and Augie.
Whoever, Augie, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing while this is going on? Because that's a long scene.
So I have the chance to actually sit back and watch it, not unlike a patron in the audience.
Okay.
So I'm actually just completely entertained as Desi, not Jenna, but maybe both.
Yeah.
So I can get away with sitting there laughing at them, and that changes a little bit every day. I mean, Jeremy plays Ogie, and he is just a comedic genius, to say the least.
So funny.
Not to mention Lena, who plays Dawn. But the way that they play off of each other, and Jeremy really uses the audience. So if the audience is really with him, he can kind of set back a little bit. But if they're not sure, like, oh, suddenly we need to laugh, he will pull out the stops to let you know that it is time to laugh. I mean, and he will go for it. I mean, it's just
nobody can milk a moment. Jeremy does.
Just completely, and I love it, and I love watching him work in that way. I mean, he's a genius. So,
did you have any thoughts about trying for that part?
I actually did audition for that part
Did
a
you
long
really?
time ago. Not for the
I can
tour,
see
but
that.
for Broadway. Yeah,
okay.
but for a long time ago. I don't think it wasn't a good fit.
this is
No,
better fit.
it fit like a glove, but a glove made for someone else.
Okay. Well, you need some really snappy dance moves.
That's right.
That don't look like dance moves.
That do not look like that.
sprightly. Yeah,
Yeah.
The spasms are more like
They're really more, yes, we really are.
Yes.
Seizures, really.
yes.
Desi, I want to ask you this because you have to interact with girls playing your daughter
Yes.
later on in the show. And we had local auditions here, and we had two young girls, Anina, I believe, and
Anina,
Vienna.
and Vienna.
How is it working with different girls in different cities? And they're great. She was great last night, Vienna. I thought
Absolutely fabulous. And so this was an idea that they brought to us early on, and we wondered, is this going to work? I mean, what a great idea on paper. But I have to tell you, it has been wonderful. It has worked out seamlessly, but not without work prior. Susanna is part of our casting team. She goes to each city beforehand and selects young girls just like Vienna and Anina here in Omaha. And she carefully selects them. I mean, it's just like the New York City casting process, exactly like those girls that are playing Lulu on Broadway.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so they are hand-selected and chosen, and then our stage manager, Rachel, works with them locally once we're here. And with all of that prep, and then we get some time with them, it's foolproof. It really is wonderful. And being at the age, they're either 4 or 5, they're at the perfect sweet age where it's they're not so knowing, where they're gonna make all these choices on their own. They like to do what they're told, and they like to play along with us. And Susanna can always tell that in them. And so these girls have these sweet temperaments where they're excited and they're thrilled. And I was saying earlier, they normally cry at the end of the week. They're so sad that it's over.
Yeah,
It's like it's like a week of camp. I mean, it's really fun.
True.
It's really sweet, and I think it's special for them to get a glimpse of this professional environment, especially if they love it. I mean, sometimes you can see that early on if they really have a knack for it. It's cool.
Let's talk about when something goes wrong on stage. This is one of our favorite questions we ask everybody who comes through. Anything memorable on the tour, the 60-plus shows you guys have done, that has just, you go,
There's
oh my
a
God,
few,
what are we going to do?
We have
so many.
We're stuck here in front of all these people.
Especially with how many props we have.
Yes.
It is a very prop-heavy show, so there's inevitably something's going to go wrong with props. There was one time recently where there's a scene in the top where I have to rip a prescription off my prescription pad, and it's supposed to flutter in an unpredictable way, which of course it does because of physics.
Yes.
So it fluttered into the lap of the front row, where I could no longer reach it. So I just
Which has never happened
Which
before.
has never happened. So I just very quickly said, "Can you call that in?" I didn't know what else to do.
That's great.
Do you only have one piece of paper? Is that it?
I mean, I have a whole pad, but I just
okay.
thought, I
At
had
that
already
point.
spent so much time trying to catch it out of the air that writing another prescription
Well, I
wouldn't have
wondered
been
that last night when I
fun.
saw him do that. I thought, was that supposed to flip like that? And it was
I mean,
great.
it's supposed to do what it does, and I'm
Okay.
just supposed to play along with it.
Okay.
And in that case, that was the one time it's fallen into.
And
the audience.
sometimes he's over here catching it. Sometimes he's over here. I watch him like,
Who knows? Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
That's a fun game every time. I never know where that's going to go. I caught it
Yeah.
behind my back once and got an applause break. Didn't mean to do it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Completely an accident.
Yeah. That's what's so
But-
fun about it.
yeah.
Desi,
Oh my goodness. We've
fess up.
dropped things, dropped pie. I've cleaned up sugar, flour on the floor with rags as though it's part of the diner scene, faking it like, well, sure, we just sweep this up. Eggs in places where they shouldn't be, on costumes, on my dress. Oh, the things go awry all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
My
But you just
diploma
have to,
falling off the wall one time.
this was my favorite stories.
When I had the scene at the end of Act 1, I have to stop her from leaving my office quickly. So I shut the door, and I did it just hard enough that the diploma fell off the wall and broke on the ground.
And fell and broke.
Oh, man.
It
The
had
audience,
to be acknowledged.
the whole audience watched it happen.
Yeah.
So we couldn't just be like, we couldn't just not. It happened. I mean, it was just, it fell on the ground and shattered it. It broke everywhere.
Broke all over the floor.
And Brian said the most genius improv line that I will never forget. He looks at me and he goes, I only had one of those. And the audience completely loses it. I mean, just erupts with laughter. It was that's a high five. Yeah. I tell you what, I was like, I wanted to jaw to the floor like, that was genius, but we had to keep going anyway.
That's great.
Always. There's always something breaking down or,
you got to keep them, got to stay on your toes.
Well, it certainly sounds like you guys don't enjoy this at all.
No.
Right.
No.
We hate
Drudgery.
it.
Yeah.
Drudgery.
And I want to say about this show, today we did a story. The Webster's Dictionary declared feminism the word of the year. And due to so much going on in our country with the marches and the different things, but I think this show speaks to that so much, don't you,
definitely
Desi?
does. Absolutely.
And empowerment for women. When I
Hugely.
explain it to people who haven't seen it, I'm like, you really feel empowered after you see it.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that. And it's an all-female creative team, which is the first time in Broadway history. And I always like to mention that it wasn't necessarily that somebody said, I've got a great idea. Let's do Waitress and let's put all of the women on the creative, let's make the entire creative team women. That didn't happen. Yeah. They chose the best people for the job, and it was on the first day, and they looked around and they said, oh my goodness, there's all women sitting here. This is outrageous. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. This has never happened. And I love that, and I love mentioning that. I mean, it is an empowering story, especially for women. I do think it's a universal story, especially, and I know a lot of men that are hugely affected by this because of women in their life, or because of, I mean, there's always women in your life, and so it's a universal story, but it really does speak to the heart of a woman for sure.
Yes.
Well, we had a blast watching it, and everybody here in town will too. So shows right through Sunday. So if you get a chance, go out and see Waitress while it's here.
Tickets still available. Make a good early Christmas gift.
That's true.
I think, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. A sweet treat.
Yes.
And then go get pie after.
Well, Village it or wherever you want to go.
I'm surprised you guys don't have an endorsement for it.
They make really good pies here. Yeah.
Well, Desi, Brian, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure.